1-0 and flying high. We the North knows that a desperate Wizards team will come to play tonight. Not to mention John Wall and company are trying to sway the officials to give them some more calls. How will the Raptors respond? Let's find out. BMO Raptors basketball starts now. Welcome to BMO Raptors basketball. I'm Meghan McPeak alongside Dwayne Watson, high atop the Air Canada Center, right over midcourt as we get you set for the Raptors and the Wizards Game 2. Paul Jones and Sherman Hamilton will be courtside with the call in just a few moments as warm-ups wind down, Dwayne. Game 1, they get the W. They come from behind convincingly in the fourth quarter, turning up the defense. They're looking to do that again tonight, but starting from the tip-off. Yeah, and you look at it, you're hoping that the Raptors don't have this, not letdown, but obviously they got the monkey off their back with this losing streak in Game 1 and getting that done, that they don't want to take their foot off the pedal. But really it's a matter of keeping momentum. I mean, this team had momentum going to the playoffs. They're still the number one team. They've got this team where they want them. They were able to have their stars excel, especially in the second half, and their supporting unit complement as well. So it's really more of the same recipe for this Raptors squad. Part of that supporting unit was DeLon Wright. However, the good news for the Toronto Raptors, Fred VanVleet is available tonight and will be ready to go. So the injury report, there is no one on it, as all 15, 17, however many guys you want to put on that roster for the Toronto Raptors in this playoff, they are ready to go with the 15 guys they've got. For the first time ever in playoff history for the Toronto Raptors, take a 2-0 series lead over the Washington Wizards, and they get 37 from DeMar DeRozan, tying a franchise postseason high in points, and win at 130-119, as heard from Paul Jones and Sherman Hamilton right here on TSN 1050. What a ball game. So I wrote down like notes, right, Dwayne, and it's all franchise playoff records. So franchise high playoff first quarter points with 44. Right. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken as well, too, first half with 76. DeMar DeRozan ties a franchise high, as I said, in points in a game with 37. JV tied Antonio Davis, which is one of the best rebounders in Raptors history, with most postseason double-doubles. Had his 12th tonight, so if he has another one in Game 3 or 4, Friday or Sunday, he would then be the only one atop that list. And, of course, as I mentioned, the first time ever in franchise history, they take a 2-0 series lead in very convincing fashion right from the tip-off. And, you know, we've kind of joked about it here and there, right, with Lowry going into Game 1, saying that we need to treat this, we're treating this as if it's a Game 7. And he said it following practices the last couple days and heading into tonight's game, that we're treating this like another Game 7, and it was very evident from tip-off. Sometimes what we've seen from opposing coaches is they try to throw long, tall guys at DeMar DeRozan to try and throw him off, because he's so versatile and has essentially turned himself into an assassin all over the floor. He used to be known as essentially Mr. Mid-Range. Right. Now he's hitting it consistently and with confidence from beyond the arc. So he's tougher to guard, and that's why you see length. And it didn't matter who was in front of him. He was going at them, and he was getting everything he wanted. I believe it was the first half. There was that one play where, with the defense on him, comes down three-point line, rises, and on the way down, he doesn't hit the three, but on the way down, I believe it was Bradley Beal got that foul. And you could tell in that moment that he had a different type of swag and confidence about him heading into this game. It was almost as if, you know, as cliche as it sounds, when you see guys before games, and sometimes we get the opportunity to see different players before games, and they just have a different look in their eyes. And it seemed like DeMar just had this different look in his eyes tonight, and he was trying to send a message not only to the Wizards, not only to John Wall and Bradley Beal, who he is friends with, but to the rest of the NBA that you've counted us out year after year. It's not going to happen again. Josh, up 18, and the Wizards bench is plus 11 over the Raptors bench, which is typically the best bench in the NBA. Would you have suspected that the Raptors would have almost a 20-point lead at half if that was the case?
I would not have. I'm not sure that I would have expected much of what we saw in the first half. I mean, listen, the Raptors were really good in Game 1, and they seemed to be confident going into Game 2, but the same could have been said about the Wizards.
Game 1, we get 23 and 12 from Ibaka. Tonight in the first half, 8 and 6. I don't know about you, but I personally am loving what I'm seeing from him on the boards. Your thoughts on how he's played in 2 games, and can we try to lobby for Serge to get 2 to 3 days off? every single playoff series?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's 3 sets of 2 days off in this series, and I mean, they might not need the 2 games in between, scheduled in between games 4 and 5 if this continues. Ibaka's playing with a ton of energy on both ends of the floor tonight, particularly defensively, which is where I think they need him most.
Right now, Bradley Beal, you're non-existent in this playoff series, and you're proving that you're not the best backcourt in the NBA, and you're not even the third best backcourt in the NBA. Right now, I would be looking, if he was playing, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. Obviously, Steph's out, so you can't necessarily look at that. It's almost got an asterisk. Right now in the playoffs, the best backcourt in the NBA is DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. And that is not because I live in Toronto and I cover the team. It is simply based on the way that they are playing. I would give CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard a solid 2, only because...
I don't even know if it was after the last game they had, but you're right. They're in the conversation.
They're in the conversation. Right now, Bradley Beal and John Wall are not in the conversation. It's John Wall and Bradley Beal is MIA.
Ryan, let's jump right into it. As I mentioned, you followed LeBron from his high school days, his first stint with Cleveland, then to Miami with the decision, and then back to Cleveland. When you look at, what he's done and this year that they've had, their defense not been what it was, but did you think that they would be able to turn the defense up the way they have in the playoffs compared to what we saw at the end of the regular season and sort of, that little bit of a spiral they were taking and the concerns everybody was having?
I don't actually know how much they've turned it up because they're still giving up a lot of open shots. The Raptors just aren't hitting them. You,
along with Dave McMenamin, both of you co-authored the book Return of the King, LeBron James, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Greatest Comeback in NBA History. Fans can get that on Amazon and the various book outlets. But just, you've covered LeBron, as I mentioned, from start to finish, and as he continues on. Writing this book and seeing them come back down 3-1 to then win the championship, just tell us more about your experience in writing this book, because we had Dave on last week and he chatted about it. But what has your experience been covering LeBron and then putting this book together with your partner, Dave McMenamin?
The book, my favorite part of the book is when I wrote about the 2014 summer. Now, most people enjoy the book because it tells the tale of the comeback of last year when they were down 3-1 to the Warriors and came back, and we have all the stuff about what happened in the locker room, etc.
If they swept this Wizard team, that would be a statement I think put the league on notice that maybe these guys are for real. I mean, I think a lot of things that Toronto fans have already known.
Right, and I think with games 1 and 2, it's putting people who were questioning them and saying you got to do it in postseason, you got to do it in postseason. I think their antennas are up and they're paying a lot more attention to this series now. On top of that, when you look at who their potential second-round matchup would be, yes, I have to bring this up because it would be unlike Meghan McPeak to not do this. You're looking at
we got an hour and 20 minutes left to post game.
I mean, we'll have a lot to talk about.
Got it.
You look at either the Indiana Pacers, who put on a clinic in Game 1 versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's your second-round matchup. Mm-hmm. If you can sweep this Wizards team and get rest, because I have a feeling that series is going 6 or 7. You can get rest. You've got a guy like Ibaka who's older and needs rest. He's proven that the rest he had between games 1 and 2 is working in his favor. He's proven that all season, that when he gets a couple days, he's usually fresher and much more effective.
Right.
If you can have an extra 3 or 4 days off between this series and having to take on a tired Cleveland team or a tired Pacers team, I like your chances a heck of a lot more versus this going to 6 or 7 games and them going to 6 or 7 games and potentially LeBron James coming into a series with a head of steam.
Now joining us on the line, former NBA player, NBA champion, and current NBA TV analyst Steve Smith. Steve, thank you for taking some time out of your afternoon to join us here on Home Court and talk Raps and Cavs. We'll jump right into it with you. Following last night's fourth quarter debacle, is there anything left the Raptors can try and do in Game 4 to compete at the minimum?
You know what? I think they can, Megan. I mean, just watching them the last 2 years, they've been down before in all their series. I think for them it's just got to be pride. And obviously, historically they say no one's ever came back from 3-0. But the whole goal is we're going to compete. We're professionals. We're a team that we know have talent. We played this team last year. Yes, they have additions, But you win one game, you want to get to Cleveland.
When you look at the East, and it seems inevitable that the Cavs are going to beat the Raptors, if not sweep them. The other two options are the Celtics and the Wizards. Can either of those teams push the Cavs or, come up with the miracle of upsetting the Cavs?
As of right now, I think it'll be tough for both teams. I think the Boston Celtics, it'll be extremely hard because of the matchup of basically they just have Al Horford playing in front court. They need Olynyk. They need to play at a whole nother level. If not, I think with the size of LeBron coming at Al Horford, he has to help and then get back to Tristan Thompson. And if you play Channing Frye, he got to stand outside the lane. I think it'll be tough for the Celtics. This
is my biggest knock on this Wizards team because I felt that, while the starting five is talented, they don't have the depth.
Right.
And you're not getting a balance out of the starting five. Like
right.
Bradley Beal hasn't shown up. So you can't rely on these other guys to get it done, and the Raptors have that depth.
Right. When you mentioned, the fact they have to go on the road now to close out, and as of right now.
I like that. Is that what you're calling for?
I was going to say, as of right now, this is looking like it's going to be a sweep. When you look at the way that these guys, and when I say these guys, I'm talking Toronto Raptors,
yep.
The first seed in the East, the number one team in the East, second best home record next to the Houston Rockets.
Tied with them.
Tied with them, excuse me. I meant second best record overall in the season.
Correct.
In the NBA to the Houston Rockets. I'm expecting a sweep at this point. If this is how they're going to play, and that's how Washington's going to play, because right now it does not look like if you had have told me coming into this game or coming into this series that John Wall would miss 41 games and look fresher than Bradley Beal right now and look more confident than Bradley Beal, I would laugh. And right now Bradley Beal doesn't look confident whatsoever. Dwayne, coming into tonight, there was question about Fred VanVleet. Would he play? Would he not play? What's going on with him? We found out about 45 minutes to an hour before the game. He's good to go. He is 100% available. We saw him in the game, only played 3 minutes, did not return. And, the questions obviously start swirling around what's going on with him. Did they bring him back too soon? But then you and I, during the game, I kind of threw that at you. Maybe they were just bringing him back to see how he felt in a game situation versus it's the playoffs. They're not really practicing. They're kind of just doing walkthroughs. And, you told me if he wasn't good to go and they were still trying to figure out if he could, they're not going to say he's available and make him available. So
looks like you were right.
But we'll hold off on that.
Okay.
Let's hear from Fred VanVleet himself.
How frustrating was it to have to sit out the other night, maybe not be up to a full strength today?
Yeah, it's frustrating. Obviously, going into the postseason, you just want to be healthy and want to give yourself the best chance to go out there and play. Obviously, I took a hit, so I'm just trying to get back right from that, and thought I would have a chance to go out there and do that tonight, but just wasn't quite right.
If they keep playing this way, you could almost just rest him for the rest of the series. If it does end up being a sweep.
You're calling for a sweep without Fred VanVleet. That's pretty ambitious. Hey,
I'm
what you see?
Exactly. I like what I see. I'm going off what I've seen in 2 games. Yes, both at home. Yes, you have home court advantage. However, they've proven that they can play like that on the road in the regular season. So if I'm going off of what we've seen in 2 games plus what we saw through 82 games of them and 41 on the road, I'm very confident in this ball club in the way they're playing right now, and I'm not so confident in the Washington Wizards right now.